Hello. So today I thought I'll speak a little about what's called as responding to internal stimulus. Now, there are many kinds of responses, sounds that we interact with. If you're in the movie, in the Harry Potter series, when Jenny is interacting with a book where she's writing to it and she's getting response from it, and the lesson, and it goes so bad that her life comes to be at a certain point. And the lesson from that is, do not respond to anything where you don't know where they keep their head, but I would say it's more where you don't know where they keep their body. Yeah? So even if you think you know the person, it is to be noted that sometimes the mind plays tricks, but sometimes what is not safe may seem to play a trick. Yeah? So it may seem like the voice of somebody you know, or it may seem like the voice of somebody who cares, and it could also seem like something that you have not tried before, and hence you are now in the awareness of, and hence you need to try. So these are all different responses. These are different stimulus that may be there in the environment. There are reasons for why they are there. There are also healthy, unhealthy aspects to it. There are unhealthy aspects to it, especially when you don't know, excuse the expression, you don't know your ass from a hole in the ground. You don't know which is good, which is bad, which is right, which is wrong, which is healthy, which is unhealthy, when you don't know that. When you have no points of reference by which to know which is healthy and not, and you're responding to sounds that you hear and stimulus, then you may be moving through dynamics which is unsafe. For example, some people may call it as telepathy, but there's a difference between, for that, telepathy is a very misunderstood concept. There are several facets of it which is discernible, is understandable once you know what is your own internal landscape, and then you know which is other than yours. A lot of the times, a lot of people, they do not know which is their own voice, don't know which is their own emotions, which is their own story, and which is their own self, when they haven't come to the ground of recognizing which is their self, and hence recognizing that which sustains the test of time over and over across several time periods. When something is sustaining, you should still question, why is it so? It could still be a prolonged something that you haven't discerned yet, and is may seem like, all nice and very beautiful, but you still need to question it until and unless it is something that comes in front of you, yeah, and then presents itself as true, and still you need to question it to make sure how much safe is it, how much is it a game, how much is it a trick, maybe for you to learn something which you may be inadvertently falling into a pattern. And until you recognize which is which, you're likely to go and trip into the same pattern over and over again. Question. People who you think you know, whom you don't know, particularly what you think is all safe and familiar. Question until you find an answer, and then question further. Never stop questioning it until it becomes like it may seem like splitting hair, yeah, to what extent you would be questioning and inquiring. But you will come to a point where you will notice that what you began with may not be what you thought it to be, but is actually a trick question to have you come to something which you would not otherwise arrive at. And that's how you arrive at one iota of truth. And then you need to further inquire with that. This is the practice of contemplation in the system of yoga. So the more and more you contemplate, the more and more you arrive at what you think as the truth. Question it until you see how it has relevance and value across several spheres, several experiences, and see how much it is actually lasting the test of time. Different kinds of tests in different spaces, different people, different philosophies of thinking. And then when you notice that in some philosophies, in some spheres, it is not true, that it seems to be contradictory, then you will come to a point of, you know what, it may be true, but to what extent is it really true? Because it is false here. And then you begin to question what you have arrived at further. That's when you arrive at something that really lasts the test of time. Because you may have just touched the tip of an iceberg. With further questioning, you will come to something that seems like another version of the truth. But then when you examine this version of the truth with several other contexts, again maybe with the same philosophy, same paradigms of thinking, you may find that it is not false. It's actually gaining more value in different contexts. And then you can consider, you may begin to think that, okay, maybe this is a postulate that you could try and, examine many experiences and try and see if you would become better, or you have something by which to at least consider this as a truth. And then you examine further, and that's when you will notice if it's sustaining the test of time. Still, after examining it, you're finding that it's sustaining some test of time, you still examine, question, and then you'll arrive at something that really, it's still continuing to sustain the test of time. That's when you can kind of hold it as a theory, that maybe this is something that works, not just, for some time, but for years together. And then you may begin to try eating, sleeping, drinking, doing your different works with this theory that maybe there is some truth to it, but you need to live it to see if it really lasts, if it really sustains the test of time. If you can test it in many ways and it's still holding true, that's when you can say, okay, maybe this may not be just a theory, but something that you can try on a little more than it just being a theory. Maybe it's something that you can try and practice, kind of like a ground, like you're stepping onto like on a ladder, you're kind of stepping on and seeing, does it hold ground, or are you safe? Are you stable? Can you live life? Is it adding value to you, to people around you, to future generations? If it's not adding value to future generations, then you need to look at how stable is that, what you thought of as a theory and which you're considering to be a belief. If it's not good enough for future generations, if it's not good enough for people around you, then maybe there is a weakness in it. Because the strength of a compound is as good as the strength of its weakest link. So if there is some point where you don't feel safe and you think that other people may not feel safe with this, or it's not safe for future generations, you cannot just tell it to your children and grandchildren without a lot of ifs, buts and no's, and then you still find, you should warn them against, if this comes up, do not do this. In which case, this may not be lasting so much the test of time. So, I hope this gives you pause for thought about just responding to internal stimulus or what you think as, this is something that you can do. You may be doing more harm than you know. Thank you for your consideration. Prudence always works. Thank you. Prudence, and then asking questions, and then testing. Yeah. Thank you.